you. Sige. Okay, what's the difference between triacylglycerols and glycerophospholipids? Focus on the structure.
Ang kuan ma'am kanang ang triacylglycerol ma'am na siya'y kuan kanang duha ka fatty acids ma'am. Then nakuan siya og non-polar then dayon nang kaning usa ka structure ma'am kanang usa lang yung fatty acid.
Ah, really? Okay, balik. Triacylglycerols. This is your triacylglycerols. Okay, so who else? We have Jalea.
Triacylglycerols ma'am contain of three fats from the word itself tri. And then itong isa ma'am phosphate ma'am.
Okay, yes.
Also,
Glycerophospholipids.
yes ma'am, it contains phosphate, phospholipid ma'am.
Okay, balik daw. Sige, thank you, Jalea. Who else? Rina. Okay. So we have that one, sakto to, from the word itself, tri. So it means triglycerols or triacylglycerols contains three fatty acids. This one, okay, it contains three fatty acids, whereas so it contains three fatty acids, whereas your glycerophospholipids contains only two fatty acids, kaya ang ikatulog giilisan og phosphate. Giilisan og phosphate and then alcohol group. Now, okay, so also your phospholipid is amphipathic. So it means that it has non-polar and it has polar group. Or okay, so what is the hydrophilic group in your phospholipids? This is your phospholipid, say glycerophospholipid. So determine the polar region. So what's the polar region in your phospholipids, glycerophospholipids? It's this one. Okay. Phosphate in your alcohol. The phosphate group and the alcohol group makes up your makes up the hydrophilic or polar region of your glycerophospholipid. Now your fatty acid, then your glycerol, okay, your fatty acids and then the glycerol, they are non-polar. Okay, they are non-polar, so they are hydrophobic. They fear water. Okay, so it's insoluble to water. But because this one, we have the polar group, the phosphate, and the alcohol group. We also have this one. So unlike to your triacylglycerol, it's purely non-polar because the fatty acids, di ba? Your triacylglycerols, ang phosphate and alcohol group ilisan man fatty acid, so tulo ka fatty acids. Now, those fatty acids are considered as non-polar. Okay, so your triacylglycerols are non-polar, whereas your glycerophospholipids are polar. So they are polar because it has a polar region. Okay. Now we have that one. Question. Okay, so your phospholipids again, it can be there are two types. So we can have glycerophospholipids. Now your backbone there is glycerol. Then we can also have your backbone, which is sphingosine. So this one, the type of this is your sphingolipids. Okay, so phospholipids has two types. We have glycerophospholipids and then we have sphingolipids. Sphingolipids differ from glycerophospholipids because from its backbone. Now, sphingolipids has sphingosine as backbone. Backbone ba class? Murag ihang framework, major foundation niya is sphingosine. While for your glycerophospholipid, your backbone is glycerol. Okay? So again, so what's the difference? Give me the two types of phospholipids.
Glycerol, ma'am, o sphingosine.
Glycerol is pisosine. SP
Okay, yes.
sphingosine.
Glycerophospholipids and phospholipids.
Okay, glycerophospholipids, and then we have sphingolipids. Now, what's the difference between your glycerophospholipids and your sphingolipids? What's the
Glycer
difference? Yes. Marley,
Say ang unsa gani to ma'am?
unsay difference sa glycerophospholipids and then sphingolipids?
Ang glycerophospholipids ma'am kay has a three fatty acid and ang sphingo has one fatty acid ma'am.
Pila ka fatty acid ang glycerophospholipids?
4 ma'am, 4.
4? Asay ka 4? When you count this one fatty acid, 2 fatty acid. Kani fatty acid ni phosphate? Fatty acid pud ning kuan? Alcohol? Okay, so Ernie, what's the difference between glycerophospholipid and sphingophospholipid? Tanawa ninyo class O.
Okay, ma'am, ang difference between sa glycerol phospholipids o ang sphingophospholipids kay ang glycerol phospholipids, ma'am, is nag-contain siya sa contain of two fatty acid and ang iyang backbone is glycerol, then ang sphingophospholipids kay nag-contain siya og fatty acid, one fatty acid, then ang iyang backbone is sphingosine. Tapos ang glycerol phospholipids, ma'am, is a hydrophilic phospholipids which is non-polar, then ang sphingosine kay kuan, ma'am, kaning polar. Then maura pud to, ma'am.
Okay. So, okay. You got the correct answer half. Okay. So, all right. Now, that's it. It has 2 fatty acids. Then the backbone is glycerol. Perfect. Here, sphingophospholipid. The backbone is sphingosine. And then you have your 1 fatty acid. Now, phospholipids. Okay, these 2 are phospholipids, right? Phospholipids, both glycerophospholipid and sphingophospholipid has hydrophobic group or hydrophobic region, this one, and hydrophilic region. Hydrophilic meaning polar. Hydrophobic meaning non-polar. Phobia, non-polar. Water-fearing. Non-polar are water-fearing. So, phobia, hydrophobic. Then here, this region, the phosphate and the alcohol group are hydrophilic. Now, when going to your sphingosine, that's still holds true because your sphingosine, this region is what? Hydrophobic or non-polar? Hydrophobic. Timanan na ninyo na class. Basta nagari phobic from the word it's phobia. So, mahadlok og water fearing. So, it's non-polar. Hydrophobic. Non-polar group. Now, what about your phosphate and your alcohol? Your phosphate and then your alcohol is
Philic.
okay, hydrophilic. Water-loving. Hydrophilic or is it polar, non-polar?
Polar.
Polar, ma'am.
Okay, hydrophilic. Now, that's it. Okay, wait. Okay. So, now by that, we can say that our phospholipids are amphipathic. This one. They are amphipathic. It means that it contains both, it has polar region, or katong hydrophilic region, and it has non-polar region. So, the word there is amphipathic. Okay. So, that's it. Now, kato kung giingon ganina, nga katong non-polar, katong gi-answer ni Ernie, na-confuse noon siya. When I say non-polar, it is your glycerophospholipid. Glycerophospholipid is non-polar. Oh, triacylglycerol, sorry. Your triacylglycerols are non-polar, whereas your phospholipids are polar. Okay, remember triacylglycerols. This one. This one is your triacylglycerol. Your triacylglycerol is this one. This one, diba? Triacylglycerol. Now, this is non-polar. The whole molecule is non-polar. Whereas, okay, take note na ha, i-question na ako na. Whereas your phospholipids are what?
Polar, ma'am.
Okay. Actually, it's amphipathic, but because it has a polar region, so it is considered as polar. Okay. So your phospholipid is amphipathic. Now, but when asked if we are going to classify pajod, if it is polar or non-polar, it belongs to the polar molecule. Your phospholipid is polar, while your triacylglycerol is non-polar. Okay. So what makes... Okay. Okay, ha? That's it. So, again, what's the difference of your phospholipid and then your triacylglycerol? What's the difference between phospholipid and triacylglycerols? Eman. Phospholipids and triacylglycerols.
Ang triacylglycerol ma'am kay kuan siya non-polar, then ang phospholipids kay polar.
Okay. Yes, that's it. It's one thing, correct. What else? About the structure.
Puti siya.
Okay, sige. What about the structure? Difference between phospholipid and triacylglycerols. Okay. Now. Sige, we have Rina. Rina May. Tabag pud mo class. Rina May. Try. Marfiline. John Lloyd.
Ma'am, wala ba akong kasunod, ma'am? Kaya nakalive ko, kaya nawala akong signal.
Okay, so we have Tuiko.
Ganina na nga discussion, ma'am. Mo pa sulod na.
Okay. Joshua.
Kuan ma'am, sa ako alang ma'am kay bago-bago ra ko nakakuan ma'am ang kaning high kaning sa kuan ma'am okay non-polar siya ma'am ang sana siya kanang high katong sa kuan ma'am sa katong naay structure nga sphingosine ma'am then non-polar siya sa glycerol nga katong structure ma'am is polar siya ma'am.
Okay. All right. So who else? Yes, Jalea.
Dili ko sure ma'am ha, pero triglycerol has ang iyang structure is nag-compose siya og 3 fats, which is can be
Fatty
homo or
acids.
hetero.
Fatty acids. Fatty acids.
While phospholipids nag-contain siya og duha ka types katong which is naa siya duha ka backbone o backbone ng glycerol o itong itong something ina ang name
Sphingosine.
of yes ma'am, and then ang glycerol nga at the backbone is matawag siya og antiphatic, which is polar and non-polar. Pero ang phospholipids is classified siya sa polar region.
Okay. What about sphingosine? Is sphingosine amphipathic or not?
Kuan po siya ma'am, antiphatic.
Okay, amphipathic. So what makes it polar class? What makes it polar? Your phosphate and your alcohol group makes it polar. Your phosphate and then alcohol group makes it polar. Okay, so again, this is still a review pa ba ni? So we have this phosphate. Okay, if we have this glycerol. Okay, if we have this glycerol and then, diba, glycerol, this is the structure of your glycerol. Now, what if we will delete the alcohol? What would you call this, the whole thing? Kanina lang. We call that as? Alona.
Kanang phosphatidyl man ata to ma'am.
Okay, phosphatidyl. Then, but when you, og ang alcohol atong ilisan og something, og lahi, depende na lang dayon. Okay. Now, if ilisan nato ang alcohol og choline, okay, ilisan nato ang alcohol og choline, what would be the new name?
Kuan ma'am katong phosphatidyl choline.
Okay, phosphatidylcholine. So we have this one. So as you can see, so what do you call this structure? This is your what? This one is your phosphatidyl. Okay, this one is your phosphatidyl. Then, what about this one? What is this? Kanina sa boss.
Kuan siya ma'am, choline.
Okay, so choline. So the whole thing is the whole
Phosphocholine.
what's that? Okay. Ernie.
Phosphocholine, ma'am.
Ma'am,
Okay, how do you call this whole thing?
phosphatidylcholine.
Okay,
Phosphatidylcholine.
phosphatidylcholine. All right, no, you just take note the difference. Okay, the difference between choline and then ethanolamine. Okay, ethanolamine. Okay, has this one. So each agad H3, whereas your choline is CH3 or methyl. Now, when this ethanolamine, ibutang na to siya sa imong phosphatidyl. Mo to siya butang diri class. Dili na siya nag-bond. Okay, so what's the new molecule?
Kuan siya, ma'am.
Phosphatidyl ethanol.
Kuan, ma'am. Phosphatidyl ethanolamine.
All right. Okay, what about if we have this one?
Phosphatidylserine, ma'am.
Okay, phosphatidylserine.
Phosphatidyl.
All right. Okay. So let's go now. Let's go. Done with the review. Okay, so we have this one. Glycerophospholipids. Okay, please read. Okay, you read. John Lloyd.
Glycerophospholipids. Structurally, glycerophospholipids are, although similar to triacylglycerols, they have different biochemical functions. Triacylglycerol serves as energy storage molecules. Glycerophospholipids function as components of cell membrane. A
Okay,
major
stop.
structural
Okay, so that's it. Your triacylglycerol serves as your energy storage. Just like your carbohydrates, glycogen serves as energy storage also. But your glycogen and carbohydrates can only give you an energy for 1 day. Without eating without eating or unsa yung gipangkaon pa. Whereas your triacylglycerol can give you an energy or can store energy for a month. Okay, so it can store energy for a month. Then your glycerophospholipid acts as a component of the cell membrane. We have the cell. Okay, if this is your okay, if this is your cell, okay, lingin daw siya class, lingin. Now, your sa surface ana is what we call your cell membrane. Now, what makes the main component of your cell membrane is the phospholipids, glycerophospholipids. Okay? So, glycerophospholipids. Now, forget sa sphingophospholipid. So, this glycerophospholipid, okay, this one is your glycerophospholipid. So, it's a component of cell membrane. Now again, your glycerophospholipids are amphipathic but can be classified as polar. They are polar and it separates from the outside world of your body to the inside, di ba? This is your cell. Naman dira ang kato mga mga organelles. You have the mitochondrion, the lysosomes, katong katong kuan pa jud. Ay, nakalimot. Okay, so you have all the organelles inside the cell. Then outside that one is your phospholipids or glycerophospholipids. Now, glycerophospholipids is very important because it separates the outer world to the inside world. And without this one, there will be no life because an organism, for it to have life, it must be distinct from the outside environment into the inside environment. So dapat separate siya. So this cell membrane is very important. Therefore also, since your glycerophospholipids make up the cell membrane, it's also very important. Without it, there will be no life. Okay, so that's it. So glycerophospholipids. Now, so why is it that it's amphipathic? Later we will know, because of course our inside the cell happens the metabolism. Inside the cells happens the processing of your food, of your carbohydrates, of your water to for another process. So the cell membrane lets uh lets your water, your oxygen to enter inside the cell. Okay, it will enter inside the cell. But again, this your phospholipid or your plasma membrane, your phospholipid again is semi-permeable. So it is very specific of what molecules nga ihang i-allow to enter the cell. Those tiny molecules don't need, makasulod rin sila, whereas those mga dagko na nga molecules, ano siya, like glucose, so like proteins and so, then it needs carrier, or it needs a bus pa, or ginana bus for it to enter. So again, your cell membrane, the glycerophospholipid, is semi-permeable. The cell membrane is semi-permeable. It's very specific of who will, kung kinsa ang pasudon or kinsa iyang ipagawas. Now we have that one. So a major. Okay, continue. Joshua.
A major structural difference between the two types of lipids is that of their polarity, responsible for the differing biochemical functions. Triacylglycerols are nonpolar, glycerophospholipids are polar.
Okay, so again, triacylglycerols are nonpolar. Itong na 3 fatty acids, Fa, Fa. While your glycerophospholipids are polar. Okay, so inana siya class. Okay, so why is it that your triacylglycerol stores much higher energy than your carbohydrates, your glycogen? It's because your triacylglycerols, the fatty acid is it's a long chain of hydrocarbons. It's a long chain of carbon and then hydrogens. So that's it. That's why it stores more energy, much higher energy than your glycogen. Glycogen is mas gamay siya kaysa sa imong triacylglycerols. And also lipids class, lipids are considered as macromolecules. Big dagko nga mga molecules. Remember, we are dealing here with 18:0, 20 arachidonic, 20:0, 20:1. Okay, so tag-as kaayo imong hydrocarbon chains. Okay. So we have this one, your sphingophospholipids. Okay. Your sphingophospholipids based on the 18 carbon monounsaturated amino dialcohol sphingosine. Okay. Contains a fatty acid and one phosphate group attached to a sphingosine molecule. Fatty acid and a phosphate group in a sphingosine molecule. And alcohol attached to phosphate group. Okay, we have this one. This is your sphingosine. This sphingophospholipid. Okay. Now, your sphingosine is... Now, let's talk about the linkage. Your sphingosine has one amide linkage. One amide linkage because... Now, let's... Mananotag sphingosine here. Sphingo... When we say amide linkage, so it has what atom? Mo nag-amide. Unsa na amide? It has unsa? Phosphorus, potassium, hydrogen, carbon, unsa? It has, when we say amide class, amino amide, it is ano na siya? Nitrogen. That is nitrogen. So, okay, this one. Sphingomyelin na siya. Wait sa... Dadtum. Ay, nako. Sphingo. Okay. May magsulat ta. Question class. Ay lang mo kalibog class. Inanara na siya. Sphingosine. Okay. So your sphingosine is, ano siya, look like this. CH. And this one. So this linkage here is your... Okay, so this will be your fatty acid. Okay, example, ano na siya. So what type of fatty acid is that? Structural notation. Then you have your phosphate group here. Double bond O. Then O minus, it's an ion. It's very reactive. That's why maka-change ta. That's why may lisan siya choline, may lisan siya ethanolamine ang ato ang H here because it's very reactive. Okay, now what else? So what is the structural notation of this fatty acid? This one. Then your sphingosine is CH, double bond, CH. It's very large molecule. It's a very large molecule. Kanio, ika-12 pa na siya. Then you have your CH3. Himuon pa ni, ika-12 pa ni mo ni CH3. Masulat mo ka CH3, 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 CH3. Okay, so this one is your sphingophospholipid. Okay, here. This one. This whole thing here. Oh. Mao ni imuhang sphingosine backbone. sphingosine backbone. Then you have here your fatty acid. Then your phosphate, and then your alcohol group. Okay? Kita, class?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, di ba ang atong isa nga katong glycerophospholipid is easier man to because ano man eh, board. Glycerophospholipid easier man to kay because it's just a glycerol. When we write okay. Okay, so your glycerol is this one. CH3 dili na kayo butang H2 CH3, then you have your O, and then you have your C for your fatty acid. Then you have your O, then C double bond O for your fatty acid. Oh, unsa ni siya? What is this? What molecule is this one? What molecule is this? Okay, pangalanan natin yung molecule. This molecule is what molecule is this? Okay. Now look, this one here, remember this whole thing here. This one is your glycerol. Glycerol. Then here is your fatty acids, which we call, pag tulukabok, we call acyl group. So what is this? What do you call this whole molecule? It's called as
Triacylglycerols.
Glycolipids, ma'am.
Glycerophospholipid siya, ma'am. Oh.
phospholipid siya. Class, phospholipid. Phospho, meaning phosphorus. Phosphorus. Have you seen phosphorus here?
No.
Na ang phosphorus, letter P na siya. Ano mo na P man ang phosphorus sa ato ang kuan, periodic table P. Nakita mo P diri.
Wala, ma'am.
Okay. This one is fatty acid. This one is fatty acid, fatty acid. So it's tri. So that's one. This one is
Triacylglycerol.
triacylglycerol. Okay. Now, in ana class, I'll give you this question. Now, if ilisan na ko niha, P double bond O here, then O, then H, then O minus. What molecule is this? This
Glycolipids, ma'am.
you call this as glycerophospholipid. Okay. Now, if ilisan na ako ni diri katong, now when your glycerophospholipid, your H will be, ilisan ni siya atong choline. Unsa mga itong choline? Choline is OH, CH2, no? CH2,
CH3, ma'am.
CH2, and CH3. Okay. Now, if ilisan ako na siya, what will be this molecule? It will be Mahimo siyang okay.
Triacylglycerol ma'am.
Okay. Now, if that's the case, sorry. This whole thing na dayon, this whole thing, without this, without the H, without the OH, that is phosphatidyl. Phosphatidyl. So, phosphatidyl plus this one, your choline group. So, the whole thing will become
Phosphatidylcholine.
Phosphatidylcholine.
okay. So, this whole thing is phosphatidyl. Now, pero ilisan ako dire. Okay, ilisan ako siya H. The whole thing will become i-question ako niya exam na ko ni glycerophospholipid.
Phosphatidylcholine.
Okay. Glycerophospholipid. Now, if there's an H, okay. Pag walang H, it become phosphatidyl. Phosphatidyl. Pag na-H, glycerophospholipid. Ha? Okay. Now, after that one, so this one, okay. This is your sphingosine, kaning naka-blue. Sphingosine backbone, your fatty acid, then your phosphate group, this one, then your alcohol group. Okay, so what is this whole molecule called? It's
Sphingospholipids.
Phospholipid. Now, okay. So it's because it's a sphingosine. Now, what if I will erase the H? And then I will put katong CH2, and CH3. What do you call this molecule?
Sphingophosphocholine.
Yes, all right. So thank you for trying, but that molecule will become sphingomyelin. Okay, sphingomyelin. Now, let's talk that here. Nasha diri. That will become sphingo here. Okay, this one, sphingomyelin. Ha? Okay. Phosphatidylcholine siya dito kung glycerol. Pag sphingosine imo ang backbone, sphingomyelin. Now, this sphingomyelin are found in all cell membranes and are important structural components of myelin sheath. Remember that your cell, if this is your cell, di ba, naman na siya katong dendrites, then axons. So, the axons are your katong information pathway. So, agianan sa information. Now, when we have the myelin sheath, katong ganina sa video, nga ana, myelin sheath or putos ba? Murag sa wire bitaw, class. Inig-wire panita nimo, mo na imuhang pathway sa imong information. Then kanang black, example, black nga wire, it acts as insulator, correct? Para di ta makurentihan. Now, same thing to your axons. Ang katong tawag sa block nato sa kung sa wire, tawag nato ana is myelin sheath or swan cell. Now, what makes up your myelin sheath is this sphingomyelin. Sphingomyelin is very important because it says that when your axon is myelated, kanang giputos siya, kung giputos daw imuhang pathway, imong wire, your axon actually, is mas better ang information. Mas better ang distribution sa information. Mas pas-pas siya. So, that's it. Sphingomyelin is very important because it is the component of myelin sheath, and myelin sheath helps the communication becomes faster. Okay, so that's it. Sphingomyelin. So, sphingomyelin is just, ilisan na ni mo choline ang katong H. Ha? Katong, ilisan na ni mo choline. Okay, this one. This is your sphingomyelin. Now, take note of that, class. Okay, let's go back to sphingosine. Now, your sphingosine. So, let's go to the linkages. Okay, let's go to the linkages. So in your exam, last exam, you have lots of linkages, so it's very important. Okay, so this linkage here, okay, wait sa linkage between, okay, here, linkage here, this linkage is amide. Okay, amide linkage, amide because of nitrogen. Okay, amide. And then this linkage here is your ester. COOR. So here. This linkage here is your ester. Ester. Kita ra? Ester linkage. Okay? Then linkage here again is ester. So, what are the linkages present in your sphingophospholipid?
Amide and ester.
Amide linkage, and then we have ester linkage. How many ester linkages?
2, ma'am.
Two.
2.
Two. Okay. Now, let's go back to your triacylglycerol. I didn't know triacylglycerol. Ano na ganun ni? Glycerophospholipid because of this one. Let's go back to glycerophospholipid. So the linkage here is what we call, what linkage? Is it amide?
Ester, ma'am.
Ester. Okay, ester linkage. Ester. This one here, what do you call the linkage?
Ester, yapon, ma'am.
Okay, this one here, the linkage is ester. Ester. Then here.
Ester, yapon, ma'am.
How many, okay, what are the linkages present in your glycerophospholipids?
Or ester linkages.
Ester linkages, then there are 4. Okay, 4 ester linkages. Now, what about if it's triacylglycerol? How many linkages? Okay, kung triacylglycerol, then ilisan na natin yung fatty acid ng phosphate, no? Double bond O. How many ester linkages?
3 na lang, ma'am.
3 na lang.
3 na lang. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's it. Okay, so here is your sphingosine. Okay, that's it. So again, it is the alcohol esterified to phosphate group. Okay, so the process there is esterification. Okay, esterification is when you form ester bonds. Okay, esterification is forming ester bonds. Okay. Now, So we have another sphingolipids. Now this sphingolipid, okay, look at this one. What's the difference of this sphingolipid with your katong atong mga ginaagian na sphingolipid? What's the difference of the structure?
Line structure o kuan ma'am, ring structure.
Okay, na ring structure. What is this structure? Okay, Bek, kinsa na yan? Unsa ni nga structure?
Ring structure ma'am.
Okay, unsa man nga ring structure? Yes, it's ring. Kaya ano man siya? In a ring man siya.
First,
Cyclone.
ma'am, power.
That is your?
Glucose.
Okay, this is your glucose. Naka-answer mo ato. Okay,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
glucose. Na be, balihon daw na ako, be. Balihon na ako ang OH, ibalhin ako diri sa sa babaw. It will become?
Galactose ma'am.
Okay, galactose. So, that's it. So, this sphingolipid, this is sphingophospholipid to, di ba ganina? Sphingophospholipid. Wait. Asa man to? Okay, this one. This one is sphingophospholipid because of your phosphate group and your alcohol group. Sphingophospholipid. Now, look at the difference here in our new one. Look at this one. The third, ano, it's a dili na siya phosphate class. Di na siya phosphate. Ang phosphate gilisan og
Monosaccharide.
okay, gilisan nimo siya carbohydrate. Gilisan nimo siya monosaccharide or disaccharide or oligosaccharide bisan unsa. Now we call that one, dili na siya sphingophospholipid. Di na phospholipid, wa man siya phosphate. We call it as
Glycolipids.
glycolipid. The glycolipid is because of the bond there, glycosidic linkage, di ba?
Yes,
This
ma'am.
linkage here is glycosidic linkage. Now, in your carbohydrates, the linkage there is glycosidic linkage. Same thing here. So, we have this one, your sphingoglycolipid. Okay, so what are the linkages present in your sphingoglycolipid?
Ester and
Ester,
amide.
Ester.
Amide, ma'am. O glycol.
Linkage.
And
O glycol.
Linkage.
okay, amide and then your glycosidic linkage. So, okay. So again, now we call this one again. If we have a sphingoglycolipid that is monosaccharide, monosaccharide ang iyang gibutang class like glucose or galactose or unsa pa laing monosaccharide? Ribose, no?
Ribose ma'am.
Okay. So if ilisan nimo ni siya ang iyang kani mo yung monosaccharide here, ang imong i-attach is glucose or galactose or ribose. Then fructose also. Fructose is a monosaccharide, no? Okay. Monosaccharide. Okay, monosaccharide. Now, okay, pag ilisan nimo siya, pag ang imong i-attach nga carbohydrate is only monosaccharide, then that is what we call simple sphingoglycolipids. Simple, and they are called as cerebrosides. Cerebrosides. So, here, this is an ano, sa cell, di ba? Cell membrane, sa brain. Okay. Cerebrosides of if it is, ano, if it is monosaccharide. Imo i-attach. But if it is complex, meaning you attach the carbohydrate you attach is either polysaccharide, disaccharide, or oligosaccharide, then it is called complex sphingoglycolipid. It's called as what?
Gangliosides.
Gangliosides.
Gangliosides. Okay. Gangliosides, so it's in the brain, the gray matter in your brain. Then your cerebrosides is your white matter, I think. Okay, so ano na lang, basta cerebrosides is for simple monosaccharide ra imong gi-attach. Then, if complex na like disaccharide, oligosaccharide, or polysaccharide, you call that one as ganglioside. Okay, like this one class, oh. You see this one. Okay. You see this one. Kani, oh. Alright, this one. So, complex na kaya hang gi-attach. Dili siya ga glycosidic linkage. Okay, so again, what are the linkages present in your sphingoglycolipid?
Imide, ma'am, o glycosidic linkage.
Okay, so from the name itself, of sphingoglycolipid. So, it's, glycosidic linkage. So, there's a carbohydrate. Wa palagi mo gitagaan og link ni Sir Ralph?
Na ma'am din, dili siya magklase man, di namin magtiwas.
Oh, sige, magtiwas ata diri. Para makamanta. Okay ra?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this one, there's a summary here. You studied this one, the summary. So glycerol, glycerophospholipid, ang isa ka fatty acid, i-erase, ilisag phosphate and amino alcohol. Then ang sphingosine, ang sphingophospholipid, isa ra ka ang gikan sa glycerol, gikan sa glycerophospholipid, i-delete ang isa ka fatty acid. Then we have sphingoglycolipid, gikan siya sa imuhang sphingophospholipid. Then ang difference lang kaning amino acid i-delete para may ilisag carbohydrate. Okay. So that's it ha, the structure. Kabalo na mo sa structure. Okay, this one, don't forget this one. Okay. Okay, kasi muhatag ko ani, what's the name of this molecule?
Phospholipid.
Sphingophospholipid. Good.
Sphingophospholipid.
Yes. What about this molecule? Okay, that molecule.
Triacylglycerols.
Perfect. Wow, kabalo na sila. Okay. Now, remember also ha, katong ilisan nimo ang H, like this one, ilisan nimo choline. So it will become, ilisan na to ni choline. It will become, ang H ilisag choline. Molecule, it will become
Sphingomyelin.
Sphingomyelin. Okay, myelin myelin. Now, if siya, glycerol siya, glycerol ang backbone, dayon, ilisan na ni siya og H. Ay, ilisag choline, it will become
Glycerol myelin.
sorry. Glycerol ang backbone. Okay. Okay, kani, ilisan na kani. So, this one. Okay, what do you call this molecule? P double bond O, O minus, then O, CH2, and CH3, 3. Okay, what do you call this molecule? Hello, nakalimot sila.
Ma'am, kanang phosphatidylcholine.
Glycerol. Sa to.
Phosphatidylcholine.
Okay, phosphatidylcholine. Phosphatidylcholine. Okay, pag kani ha. Ilisan ako na siya, H3. What do you call that molecule?
Phosphatidylethanolamin, ma'am.
Ethanolamine. Kung sa itong serine, okay, you take, ikuan po rin na serine. Kung ilisan na po na ako ni kuan be. Yan na, kalimot ko. Kubal sa serine. Pero ano tong serine, Ay. Ang serine is CH2CH. Okay. Ano na. CH na lang siya. Then, buhat siya carboxylic ion here, carboxylic. Then, same thing yapon in H3. So, what do you call this molecule?
Phosphatidylserine.
Okay, phosphatidylserine, correct. So, that's it. Yay! Now, let's go to the third major type of membrane lipid. Okay, unsa man dayon anong third naman yung cholesterol? So, what's the first membrane lipid? We have
Kuan ma'am, katong phospholipids ang primero, then ikaduha kay sphingoglycolipids, then ikatulo ang cholesterol.
Okay, sphingolipid sphingolipid. Kaya ang glycolipid, sphingoglycolipid, gikan siya sa sphingolipid. Okay, so we have first is phospholipid.
Then sphingolipid.
Sphingolipid. Then we have cholesterol. Okay, hapit na ta. Alright, so this thing is, makita na ninyo akong slide. Kanang kwadra, gamay kayo.
Makita
Kira ma'am, okay.
Unsa nga okay nga nindot padakuon or okay nga nindot pagamayon?
Faktora ma'am.
Okay, so we have this one, cholesterol. Okay, cholesterol. Okay, kung cholesterol, no? Rin ta. Familiar na kita ng cholesterol, di ba? Makuha na nato siya nga. Daghan kay cholesterol. Okay. So, now, actually, class, cholesterol is already part na siya sa ato ang body. Okay, na siya sa ato ang susulod nato. But, mao pong ginaiwasan nato ang cholesterol because, ano siya, it's not essential. It's not essential like your omega fatty acids. They are essential, di ba? Meaning our body cannot synthesize it, so we have to include it in our diet. This cholesterol is not essential kay na within sa tong body naman makasynthesize sa tao cholesterol. So, but mao na din na siya mag-avoid ta kay too much can cause mag-atang siya sa tong blood vessels. Then na dayon that will lead to complications like heart attack, high blood, then heart attack. So, we have that one, cholesterol is avoided because it's not essential. So, this one, cholesterol. A steroid is a lipid. Okay, please read. We have Rina May. Rina May. Hello.
Excuse me, ma'am, puti mong screen.
Okay. Sige. Hala. Okay na. Okay, ha? Right, wait. Mag-cons ako, mag-shares ako, ha? Kachat lang. Balik ka. Okay, so Rina May, please read. Or Jessa, si Jessa. Justin. Nakadi sila diary or kanang nagkuhan lang. Okay, so we have Justin CI.
Sorry, ma'am. Sa to question ni ma'am kay nahuklat mo kog labhan, ma'am.
Alright, so we have that one. So you read, Justin. Okay,
Kanang
asteroid.
asteroid. Okay. Asteroid is a lipid whose structure is based on a fused ring system of 3 6-carbon rings and 1 5-carbon ring. Then cholesterol, the C27 asteroid molecule, then the principal constituent of gallstones from which it can be isolated, as well crystalline solid, a name derived from the source Greek called bile and stereosolid, and the importance in human cell membranes, nerve tissue, and brain tissue. More na, ma'am.
Okay, so right, thank you. Now we have that one. So cholesterol is a steroid. Okay, so steroid, di ba? Ang mga steroid, mga pills, mga pampadagko, mga muscles. So the steroid, but that's not the focus here. So we have a steroid. Sample of steroid is we have this cholesterol. Okay, a steroid. Now let's, okay, so we're done with those, no, with this structure. We're done with that. Now let's go here. Okay, this structure, it says that your steroid is composed of how many rings? We have
5.
5, 4.
One,
4 rings.
3 6-carbon rings, ma'am, then 5
3.
3 6-carbon rings and 5-carbon rings.
5 carbon ring. Okay. 3. Okay. 3 6 carbon rings. Diba? Okay. So how many carbons present in A? Carbon 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Carbon B. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Carbon C. 1. Ring C, sorry. Ring C. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Then, what about, so we have 3 6 carbon rings and we have, what else? 1 5 carbon ring. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so if we have this one, so this is your steroid. This is your steroid. It's the common name is steroid, but we have this other name, cyclopentano. Okay, please read this one. What is this one? Please read that one. We have John Lloyd. Okay, John Lloyd. What is this compound? The common name, it's known as steroid, but what about the IUPAC name? This one. It's called, nawala si John Lloyd. Okay.
Nawala yung presentation mo.
Nawala. Okay, Jessa. Okay. So, Monsil. Hazelgene. Hazelgene. Hazel. Robert. Okay. Okay, please read, Jalea. What is this?
Gly
No, this one. This IUPAC name of this steroid.
morning glycopene tranoperhydropen
Cyclo.
cyclopentanopyrhydrophenanthrene.
Okay, so this one, this is the IUPAC name and this is the common name, the steroid. So it says that your cholesterol is a steroid. It's a C27 steroid molecule. So the principal constituent of gallstone from which it can be isolated as white crystalline solid. Okay, so it's from Greek word we have the bile, the chole, and the steros means solid. So we have this, your cholesterol is important in human cell membrane, nerve tissue, and brain tissue. So it's important in the synthesis of your other hormones, and we have then also these vitamins because we know that there are vitamins that are water soluble, and then we are vitamins that are fat soluble, diba? Water soluble and then fat soluble. So those water soluble vitamins might dissolve siya sa water alone in our body. Now, whereas those fat soluble vitamins are dissolved only by fats. Now, the fat that help dissolve your vitamin is this one, is your cholesterol. Okay, so this one. So this is your cholesterol. This is the whole thing, the whole thing here is your cholesterol. Now, it's a steroid, agree? It's a steroid, agree?
Yes, ma'am.
This one
Yes,
is your
ma'am.
steroid. Now, what happened to the steroid? You just add OH in the carbon 3.
HO.
OH in carbon 3. And then we have double bond. Double bond in carbon 5. May double bond sa steroid, di ba? May double bond sa steroid. May double bond
Wala,
sa
ma'am.
steroid class.
Wala.
Wala. Okay. So we have this one. So cholesterol is double bond in carbon 5. Then, okay, in 17. So it is, naida ko kayo nga molecule here. Oh, what is this molecule called? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. So, isopentane. Okay, this one is isopentane. So that's why we have this one. Okay. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So this one is an isopentane. So your cholesterol is is a steroid, and then it has OH in carbon 3. It has what else?
Double bond.
It has double bond in
5,
carbon,
ma'am.
and then in carbon 17 it has
Molecule.
CH3.
okay, yes, what type of molecule? It's isopentane. Okay, so that's it ha, isopentane. Okay, so this is your cholesterol. Cholesterol is a steroid. Okay, now let's go. So, cholesterol in food. So, liver synthesizes cholesterol. Okay, you read. Ruchel. What's Ruchel? Marfeline. Ano po si Marfeline? Rhea. Hands up. Okay, si Justin. Amo ni si Justin. Nakabasa na si Justin. Ay, sa ka, Justin. We have Hazel Jean. Hazel. Hala.
So, ma'am, wala pa, ma'am.
Okay, Robert. Gitawag ti ka ganina.
Mobile pagsulod na ako ganina, ma'am. Yung ako na pamasahan na kini mo.
Okay, cholesterol.
Si ma'am, oh.
Liver.
Synthesis cholesterols 1 gram every day, so it's not necessary to consume in the form of diet.
Okay, so
Then,
it's not.
cholesterol
Okay,
synthesis.
it's not essential.
Oh, yeah.
Continue.
Continue pa, ma'am.
Oh.
Cholesterol synthesis decrease if it is ingested, but reductions is not sufficient, leads to cardiovascular disease. Animal food, lot of cholesterols. Plant food, no cholesterol. Medical science now considers high blood cholesterol, along with high blood pressure and smoking, as the major risk factors for cardiovascular disease. High blood cholesterol contributes to atherosclerosis, which is characterized by the build-up of plaque along the inner walls of the arteries.
Okay, all right. Thank you. So, thank you, Robert. Now, that's it. So, it says here that cholesterol synthesis, okay, when we say synthesis, gani class, synthesis is metabolism. So, cholesterol synthesis decreases if ingested. Okay, so when you eat, kung gikaon na to siya, gikan sa to mga foods rich in cholesterols, like you have your chicken skin, egg. Okay, so that's it. Ano siya, dili na noon kay siya di siya kay ma-synthesize sa ato ang body. So, by that, it will lead to plaques. It will build up. This one, it will build up of plaque along the inner walls of your arteries or your blood vessels. That will lead to cardiovascular diseases, lead to high blood. Then, we have this cardiovascular diseases, kung makuanin, heart attack. Okay. So, because when there's high blood, there will be higher pumping of your heart. Okay, so that's it. Cholesterol, when magkadaghan na kay siya, kay dili na, ano man, nag-release pa ang ato ang body, and then punan pa jud nimo. So, ano siya, it will build up. It will build up, not in, dili na kay siya magamit man, so it will build up of plaque, like this. Okay, so this one. So if you have this one, you see this one. Okay, if this is your artery, normal artery. Now, if you have atherosclerosis because of cholesterols which builded up. Okay, so look at the walls. Ning baga kay siya class no, di baga. Therefore, the blood gamay na lang ang makaagi sa imuhang artery na mga blood. Okay, so ma-traffic na noon kay sila. Miss dali, nindot kayong flow. Nindot kay ang flow. That's it. But here, gamay na kayo ang dalan. So that's it. Maano siya. Magka-traffic. Now, okay, look at here. It has a clot. Nag-clot na siya. Nag-clot. Now, of course, because your heart pumps blood to supply blood all over your body. So kusgon na niya og ayog pump in order to manggagid jud ni sila diri permanente, makaagi makalusot ang imuhang blood. Makalusot. Mao na siya nga og mapadayunan na ay heart attack kay nasubraan pag-pump sa imuhang heart. Okay, so we have this one. Look at this one. This is just a normal artery. Now, with mild atherosclerosis, there's a build-up of cholesterols. Okay, nga wala na nagamit class. Okay, mag-release pa everyday imuhang body og 1 gram and then magkaon pa gyud kag pila ka grams everyday. That one. So this one, tan-aw gamay na lang kayo agianan sa blood. Look at the plaque. Okay, so severe na ni siya. Okay, so that's it. Pero kaon gyapon ta eh. Okay ra. Okay, so that's it. That's cholesterol. Now we will have this one cell membrane. Okay, pamuklas basi nasuko na mo.
Okay pa, ma'am.
Kataos.
Okay pa mo. So,
Okay, ha? Cell membrane, okay? Your cell membrane again, it's the protective coating of the cell. So it's the outer layer of the cell. Now, cells are surrounded by plasma membrane. So what constitutes the plasma membrane? We have phospholipids. Yes, the phospholipids. Now, your katong sphingophospholipid dito sila sa imuhang kining mga katong gaway-gaway. Like your axon, your dendrites dito sila. Sa myelin sheath. Now, this one, your phospholipid is in your plasma membrane. So it separates aqueous interior, this one, aqueous interior of the cell. So within the cell, inside the cell, from outside environment surrounding the cell. It says that up to 80% of your plasma membrane is lipid material. Okay, your lipid material, so your phospholipids. The membranes are lipid bilayer, made up of phospholipids. So when we say bilayer class, first layer and the second layer, di ba? Bilayer, duha ka layer. Layer 1, layer 2. Now the layer 1 will be that separates, okay, if this is your cell, now layer 1 will be this one. This one. Layer 2. This one. Okay, ana siya. Layer 2. So, outer layer separates from the surrounding. Layer 1, inner layer separates from the inside of the cell. Inside. So, inside and outside. Hindi naman klaro. Okay, so that's it. Then bilayer, so non-polar tails of phospholipids in the middle. Okay, right? We have, because our phospholipids are amphipathic, it has polar and non-polar region. So the polar region will be facing outside, facing the surrounding, and also the katong naa sa second bilayer. Sa second layer is facing inside pud siya sa imuhang within the cell, inside the cell. Then sa tunga here, this one class O. So many. I see. Okay, this one here class. Sa tunga is your non-polar. They are the tails. Katuto mga non-polar region sa imong phospholipids. Okay, this one. Then it's about 6 to 9 nanometer thick. And so the membrane is a liquid-like structure due to unsaturation in lipid tail. So that's it. Unsaturation. Okay, because oils, because when it is unsaturated class, when it is unsaturated, it is it fat, is it solid, or is it is it liquid at room temperature? This one, it says here that the membrane is liquid-like structure due to unsaturation of lipid tails. Remember that when the fatty acid is unsaturated, so it is at room temperature, it is liquid. Unsaturated fatty acids are liquid at room temperature. That's why your membrane is a liquid-like. Marsha kaning liquid because it's justifiable because your unsaturated fatty acids, when at room temperature, they are liquid. Your saturated fatty acids are solids at room temperature. Example, your butter, margarine, while your unsaturated fatty acids are liquid at temperature. Example, your oil. Okay, so you review that one. Now we have this one. Okay. So I've shown this to you already. So like this, ano siya? It's no, this one, this is your phospholipid. So this is a lipid bilayer. This is your cell membrane. Now, so this will be your, kita class ha? This part is your inner. Okay, this whole thing here. This whole thing here is your, out, okay, inside siya, sa ubos siya. Okay. This whole thing here is your inside. So, lower layer. And this one is your upper layer. Upper layer. So, di ba ano sila, tapad class, naglukdong. Then, we have that one. Okay, so, mura siya ito-ito. This is your phospholipid class. This one is your phospholipid. The two fatty acids. Now, tanawa class. Wait. Diba? Ano man to? Your phospholipid has two fatty acids, then phosphate group. Okay, this one is your glycerol. Fatty acid. Fa. 2Fa. Then this one, your kani, here is your phosphate group, PO3 minus. Then this one is your alcohol group dayon, OH. Okay? So, inana class ha. So, isa ka ito is isa ka phospholipid. O, tara. Phospholipid. Now, again, so these heads, di ba, amphipathic ato ang phospholipid? So the tails are polar or non-polar?
Polar.
Polar, ma'am.
Ang tail. Yung ikog.
Non-polar, ma'am.
Polar.
Ay,
Ang ikog-ikog di mo class mo na mong fatty acids. Look here. Fatty acids ni mo ng ikog-ikog. So non-polar or
Phobic.
hydrophobic.
Hydrophobic.
feeling.
Ikaw, ma'am, mo na fatty acid.
Yes, kanang ikog niya. Duha ka buok. So isa ka ito, isa ka phospholipid. Ito. Okay, this one. Then we have this one. Your heads. Okay, the heads there. Remember, the heads are the polar region. So, these are the heads that constitutes the phosphate, the double bond O, the O minus, and then the OH. Okay? So here, that is your phosphate. Okay, phosphate and alcohol group. Okay, so that is your phosphate and alcohol group. So they are the polar, non-polar.
Polar.
Okay, so
Polar,
they
ma'am.
are the
Ma'am.
polar region. So same thing here. They are the polar region. And here are non-polar. Okay, so this is your lipid bilayer. So, it looks like your micelle, pero ang kani siya is straight siya, diba? Straight. Your micelle katong sa soap. Your micelle sa soap, remember katong sa soap, is circle, diba? It's circle, this one. And also, it's amphipathic. It has polar head. Okay, polar head. This one, this is a micelle. Your micelle. And then the polar region, kaning nasa gawas, facing outside. And then the non-polar region is kaning non-polar region is inside. Now, the ano lang siya, it's not bilayer. Micelle is not bilayer. Isa ra siya ka layer. And then, the polar region in your micelle are what? Carboxylic acids or the carboxylate ion. COOH. Okay, so this constitutes the polar region of your micelle. Now, for your lipid bilayer, the polar region constitutes the unsa tong naka-polar niya? It's the unsa naka-polar sa imong lipid bilayer? Unsa naka-polar is the OH or the phosphate group. The phosphate group mao'y hinungdan nga nung na polar ang imuhang lipid. So the polar heads, kani mga head niya are phosphate and alcohol group. Pero katong imong micelle, katong soap action sa sabon, what makes it polar is the carboxylic ion. Carboxylate ion or carboxylic acids. This one, huh? Okay, so what makes our micelle polar?
Phosphate group.
Polar, micelle. When I say micelle, mauna siya katong sa soap, sa sabon. Okay, what makes it polar?
Carboxylic, ma'am.
Carboxylic acids. Okay, what makes it polar is the carboxylic acids. Carboxylic acids or okay. So let's clarify that.
Ion.
Okay, when I have this one class COO minus, so we call that carboxylate ion because na might na charge. But if I have an H here, CO double bond O, COOH, pag nasa OH, we call that carboxylic acid. Carboxylic acid, okay? So this, okay, carboxylic acid or carboxylate ion makes our micelle polar. Now, what about our lipid bilayer? What makes it polar?
Ang phosphate niya, ma'am, ang OH.
Phosphate group and okay, phosphate and alcohol group. Okay. Phosphate and alcohol group. Then what makes it non-polar to our lipid bilayer? What makes it non-polar? Unsa man yung mga non-polar group here? Non-polar. Unsa mo, what constitutes the non-polar region? Unsa ni mga tumoy-tumoy niya, ikog-ikog? They are?
Tails, ma'am.
Oh, the tails. What are the tails? They are?
Kanang amphipathic, ma'am.
Unsa ni mga ikog-ikog nato niya? Di ba mo niya itong fatty acids? So, ang ikog-ikog mao na mga fatty acids. Then ang tumoy sa ikog ug kaning sa head mao na ang katong glycerol nato, no? Okay. Glycerol is still non-polar, so it belongs to the tail. So the tail, what constitutes our non-polar region in our lipid bilayer? We have two. Glycerol and then
phosphate.
Phosphate. Ang phosphate, ano na siya? Sa polar region na siya.
Fatty acid.
Okay, glycerol and fatty acids. Okay, glycerol and fatty acids, they are non-polar. Okay, mao na yung naghataw og non-polar. Okay, so that's it, non-polar. But again, let's go back to your micelle para ma-compare na to, ha. Okay, what makes our micelle, okay, what constitutes the non-polar group in your micelle? Unsa may naa dire? Unsa mga naa sa ikog-ikog? Mga? Okay, fatty acids ra. Fatty acids ra ang sa micelle. But in your lipid bilayer, ang non-polar dito is your glycerol and then your fatty acids. Sa ato ang micelle, only fatty acids. Okay, so that's it. Now, let's go here. Hapit na ta. Tama na ta sa transport. Then, magkuhan na lang din ko. Mag-video. Tulo na lang should ka page. Okay, we have this one, cholesterol and cell membrane. Cholesterol molecules. Okay, please read. Please read. Eman.
Cholesterol and cell membrane. Cholesterol molecules are also components of plasma membranes. Cholesterol helps regulate membrane fluidity. The fused ring system does not allow rotations of fatty acid tails in the vicinity. Fits between fatty acid chains of the lipid bilayer, make it rigid. Cholesterol thus acts as a membrane plasticizer.
Okay, all right, okay. Now, thank you. So, the main class, the function of your cholesterol is that it gives rigidity of our bilayer. So, nga dili siya gahi kayo, dipod kay siya humukaayo. Kay ug naay manulod, mar siya gate ba? Ug naay manulod, then ano siya? Pasudlo niya ang katong, again, our plasma membrane our lipid bilayer is semi-permeable. Pasabot, it's very selective in kung kinsa ang pasudlon here. Kay di ba gate man ni sila pa dulong sa imong cell. Okay, here's the cell, then lipid bilayer. Okay, so it's very selective kung kinsay pasudlon or ana ba or di kasulod or baka pwede mo gawas and na siya ha. It's very selective. Now, your cholesterol, this one, it gives rigidity to your plasma membrane or to your lipid bilayer. So we have that one. Cholesterol helps regulate membrane fluidity. So the fused ring system does not allow rotation of fatty acid tails in the vicinity. Okay, because of this one, because of the cholesterols, dili sila mag-change. Nga ang kaning nasa, kaning lipid, kaning phospholipid facing inside the cell, o kaning lipid, kaning phospholipid here facing outside the surrounding, dili ang cholesterol makes it or nag-regulate siya so that di sila mag-change kay mo na siya swap sa tagtrabaho bi dili ka sa kuan, dili ka mag-atubang sa cell, ako na po atubang dira sa gawas. Okay, dili siya. So the cholesterol that do the task inana para di sila mag-interchange. Okay, so it fits between fatty acid chains of the lipid bilayer and take it rigid. So we have that one cholesterol that acts as a membrane plasticizer. Okay, so it fits in between of your phospholipids. Okay, so it gives rigidity of your phospholipids bilayer. Okay, so this one. So we have this one, membrane proteins. Please read, Jalea.
Ma'am, nawala. Ma'am, nawala.
Karon lang?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Sige.
Nana, ma'am. The membranes also contain proteins responsible for such as nucleus, hormones, and neurotransmitters. The membrane proteins and some lipids are further acted with carbohydrate molecules. Acts as markers, process by which different cells recognize each other.
Okay, so that's it. So we have that one, membrane proteins. So in your lipid bilayer, so it has cholesterol, no? It has cholesterol to make it rigid. Then and also it has proteins. In your lipid bilayer, so you see this class, asa man ato mga phospholipids here? Kaning mga asa phospholipids na to ani class? Kaning mga color asa phospholipids ma'am? Kani okay. Kaning mga green mo na katong ko ano phospholipid na head niya, head. Mga ulo-ulo. Ulo-ulo niya pero nasa to nga is the tails. The tails. So this is your phospholipid. No, kuan ka siya. Magbalayan sa kuan ba? Sa honeybee. Mag sponge. Ina na siya. Na ay nasa baba, na ay nasa bus. Na nasa tunga. Okay. So kaning mga pink-pink mo ni ato mga kaya nasa tunga ba? What do we call them? This one.
Cholesterol, ma'am.
Okay, your cholesterols. Kanang pink-pink. Kani mga ikog-ikog mo itong fatty acids. Okay. So that one. Then we have this. Okay, it says that, katong gibasa dire. Let's go back to our reading now. The membranes also contain proteins. Okay, so that's it. Our plasma membrane does not only contain phospholipids, okay, because only 80% of it is phospholipid. Now the rest are the cholesterol, then also the protein pajod, then the carbohydrates, na carbohydrates. Okay, protein with carbohydrate marker. Okay, so we have that one. The membrane also contains proteins responsible for moving substances such as nutrients, electrolytes across the membrane. Receptors for hormones and neurotransmitters. Okay. Now we have that one. Again, class, because our plasma membrane is the protective coating of our cell. So again, it's semi-permeable. It selects who's to allow to go inside and who's allowed to go outside. So that's it. Now it says that there are proteins. Mga proteins daw ang mag-responsible ana class kanang kinsa ang pasudlon ug kinsa ang dili pasudlon. Okay. So we have the nutrients or other electrolytes. Nutrients like CO2, oxygen, nitrogen, water. Okay, in ana. Okay. So that's it. Then the proteins also are receptors. When we say receptors, like this one. This is your protein. Okay. Your protein, kani mga dagko kayo, this is your protein, dako na protein. Dako na gamay na protein. Protein. Okay. So this one and this are also proteins. So, ang katong mga nutrients, there is sila moagi sa imuhang protein. Especially if mga dagko. Now, if katong mga gagmay, pwede sila makalusot sa imuhang phospholipids. So, that's it. Now, we have the proteins. And also, it gives signal, but also the communication, receptors of hormones and neurotransmitters. So, the communication, the signaling. So, okay, that this example, there's another cell that needs this protein. So, i-attach siya niya iyang self. Mo signal siya dito sa protein, and then inside the cell will synthesize kung unsa ang kinahanglanon na protein para sa iyahang for this cell. Okay, so it's a communication. So the proteins help there as signaling pathway. Then we have the membrane lipids, and some lipids are further reacted with carbohydrates molecules. Also, the carbohydrates constitutes the plasma membrane. We have this one, the carbohydrates. They act as markers, processes by different cells recognize each others. Okay, so other cells will i-attach nila ilang self to this gaway, and then the protein will maka-identify din siya, this cell needs this protein or something. So the cell inside will maghatag siya, magpaspagawas, or pud baka na this cell has something to give to this cell. So that's why i-attach niya itself, and then tira na din mga nutrients or others like electrolytes. Okay, so we have that one, cell membranes. So they have transport across a cell membrane. Okay, So we have three types here. The transport is to maintain cellular processes, various molecule. Okay, so for cellular processes, so we have three types of transport. We have passive transport, facilitated transport, and active transport. Now we have this one is passive transport is when the concentration is high. Take note of this class. When high concentration to low concentration. So gikan siya sa outside and then you go inside. Or kung asa nga daghang concentration peton oxygen. So from high concentration mo ato siya sa low concentration kay to give oxygen to the system where it has lower oxygen. So if that's the case, it's high to low, then that's passive transport. Now, it says that it requires no energy. Dili siya, no effort rin yung pag-transport here, class. No effort. So, easy lang kaayo. And then, protein help. So, the phospholipid. We talk about here the phospholipids. So, if it does not help the proteins, so that's passive transport. Now, we have another one. We have facilitated transport. It's the same. It came from high to low concentration. High to low concentration. Now, if it needs protein, this one, if it needs protein, it's facilitated, meaning help sa iyaha para musulod ang nutrient or electrolyte. So we have the protein. The protein acts as gate. Okay, proteins are gates. Then also this no need energy, dili kay siya effort. But here, what if your concentration, if you want gikan siya sa kuan class, gikan from lower concentration to high concentration. Okay, so that is active transport, and it needs a large of energy. It needs a large of energy. That's why it needs a pump. Okay, it needs a pump, which is your protein. So here, in the facilitated transport, the difference is that the protein acts as gate and it requires no energy. But in the active transport, it requires protein and it requires much energy. Because again, what's inside the cell that wants to come out, it needs a pump. It needs a pump. Pareha good aning, I know, because it's from lower concentration to higher concentration. So mura kag magkinahanglag pump ba murag tubig i-pump. So it needs energy, it needs kuryente. Okay, so that's it. Now, okay, so we have three types of transport. Passive transport, again, it's from high to low concentration. Then facilitated transport, high to low concentration again. Then we have the active transport, syara ang bali. Low concentration to high concentration. Then the for energy, passive transport needs no energy, while your facilitated transport requires no energy. But your active transport needs energy. And then for your, in terms of proteins, passive transport needs no protein. Your facilitated, so magamit siya og protein acts as gate. Now your active transport, the protein there has a large work, which is to pump, which is as pump. Okay, so what's the difference between passive and active transport in terms of proteins?
Kuan ma'am, ang passive transport ma'am kanang kuan siya ma'am, no need din siya og proteins ma'am. Then ang facilitated ma'am, nag-need siya og proteins.
Okay, so what's the difference between facilitated and active transport in terms of proteins? Protein help.
Ang kuan ma'am,
Both sila ma'am, nag-need og kuan ma'am, proteins ma'am. Ang facilitated og
Okay. But unsay work sa protein sa facilitated?
sa facilitated transport ma'am, ang proteins kanang serves as gates. Then pag abot sa active transport, ang proteins are pumps.
Okay. All right. What about the concentration gradient? What's the difference between the facilitated and the active transport in terms of concentration?
kuan ma'am, ang facilitated ma'am, high to low concentration siya. Then ang active, low to high ma'am. Sibig do bali.
Okay, low to high. All right. So we have that one. Okay, so if we have that passive transport, so those mga molecules we have or oxygen, nitrogen, and water can cross the membranes. Okay, they can cross the cell membrane. They can cross the cell membrane, okay, through passive transport. Those water, oxygen, nitrogen, gagmay man silang molecules. Okay, then we have the facilitated transport. The facilitated transport are diri na din to kato mga specific proteins lang ihang paagion. Okay, specific protein carriers. Ang ilang mga it has specific protein carriers or transporters and involved in the process. So that's why the gate, the protein there acts as your gate. Then we have your active transport. For your active transport again, so it requires energy or ATP. Okay, ATP or energy. So that's it. It requires ATP. So we have that one. Lati, wasun na lang nato ni class. Or undang nata. Hapit na jud.
Ma'am, sa exam ba, ma'am? Ano siya, ma'am?
Ha?
Sa exam mo,
Yes.
ma-appeal na siya.
O, appeal.
Ano siya ng exam mo?
Ma'am,
Unsa
pwede
man?
mo hangyo pa ma'am.
Kanus aman.
Pwede next na lang ma'am, kay murag wa gimitoon.
Napagtuon pod mo class para dako pod mo score.
Kanang wa pa gyud nahuman ma'am. Daghan man gud ni ma'am, 72 ka slide, di makaya.
Okay. So kanus aman ta mag-exam?
Pwede next Friday ma'am, char.
Next Friday? Na. O nya mag-proteins na ta pagka Tuesday.
Monday ma'am.
Pero
Friday
Ay,
pa ta
Tuesday.
Ha?
Pwede,
Sige,
ma'am.
pagsabot
Karoon na lang
mo sa inyong mga classmates.
Tuesday,
Basta,
Monday,
basta,
okay ra.
basta pagka Tuesday, proteins atong i-discuss. Proteins na ta.
Monday ma'am, pero atong una.
Monday na lang, ma'am.
Monday ma'am.
Monday,
PM.
pwede ra po. Monday.
Thank you. Ma'am,
Pwede na
kanang
Monday.
Google
Ha?
Siyempre atong sa
Google
kuan ma'am,
Form.
carbohydrates.
Google Form.
Ay, thank you ma'am.
Unsa
ma'am,
din yung
thank you.
ganahan?
Ma'am, makaratol man gutong
Google
may patong
Makaratol
Google
ang?
Ma'am, ang Google Form, ma'am, pa kay mukalitrag kawala din. Big mawala ay mawala among kuan answer.
Kunya, nara.
Muna, murag makalatong, ma'am.
Ang
May
Google
gani, ma'am,
Form?
kay mobalik na po na.
Kaya naman ang Google Form kontratong usa kay grabe gid to kahadlok.
Katong quiz is,
Hindi.
katong dula-dula.
Yes, ma'am. Katong
Yes, ma'am. Pag-marathon niya to.
Aw, kato to
Google Form
Google
ma'am.
Ma'am.
Makaratol to, no? Pero ano man to, lingaw pa niya lito.
Malingaw siya ma'am pero may gining wrong.
Right. Okay. So, ano ha? Okay, Monday exam. Now, let's go. Paspason na nato ni ha kaning kamo na lay basa. Kamo na lay basa ni. So, let's go to bile. So, let's go to emulsification lipids. Okay, an emulsifier is a substance that can disperse and stabilize water-insoluble substances as colloid particles in an aqueous solution. Just like your mayonnaise, ang mayonnaise, gikan na siya, naa na siya daghang sagol, but main component of it is your egg. So the egg there acts as emulsifier. So a substance that can disperse, okay, stabilize niya ang water-insoluble substances as colloidal particles. So mo na siya, mo siyang foamy because of the egg. The egg there acts as emulsifier. Your mayonnaise is ano lang siya, oil or unta siya oil and then katong mga sagol-sagol but it becomes foamy and more siya grow foam, mo siyang colloid because it has an emulsifier. The egg there acts your emulsifier. So we have this one, bile acid, cholesterol we have the bile acids, they are cholesterol derivatives. So it came from cholesterol gihapon that functions as emulsifying agents and make dietary lipids soluble in aqueous environment. So it para mahimo siyang soluble imuha mga lipids uban of the digestive tract. Okay. So remember that our, di ba atong stomach, the stomach has HCl, the acid. So the HCl actually is an acid. So it came actually from your bile. Gikan na sa imong bile, the bile releases acids to break para iyang mulana, iyang hilison to mga naa sa imong mga tiyan, katong mga pagsulod di mo nga mga pagkaon. Okay, so our stomach is very acidic. So similar to soap. Okay, that's it. Now let's go. So we have this one. Emulsifying acids are tri or hydroxycholesterol derivatives. So carbon-17 side chain of cholesterol has been oxidized to carboxylic. Okay, so your bile, okay. Now this one, look. Remember that this is a steroid. Okay. This is, no. Remember, steroid di siya, dili.
Steroid, ma'am.
Okay, steroid. Now, having this one, okay, this is your katong cholesterol, no? Then punan lang din itong isopentane sa carbon-17. Punan man to dire. Og kuan, isopentane. Now, what happened to your bile, your cholic acid, is that dili siya, ang imuhang CH3, gilisa niya og carboxylate ion. COO. COO minus. Okay, mara na siya different. So, your bile cholic acid is a derivative of your cholesterol. Gikan siya dito. Now, when it says derivative, gani ka nang gikan siya dito. Okay, this one. So, your cholic acid, now, if you have your cholic acid, this one, if ang imong COOH, imong COO, ang O di ari sa cholic acid sa bile, ilisan og ani nga molecule, then it becomes taurocholic acid. Now, if ang kanipod siya, kaning SO3, ilisan nimo carboxylic here, mahimo po siyang glycocholic acid. Okay, ma-ordinate pang timan ninyo class. Kani siya gikan diri. Kani nalahi class. Tanawan ninyo ang similarity and differences. Inana ra ha? Okay, inana ra jud siya. Punan na ko na siya isa ka inani, punang isa ka inani. Okay, gawas di sa exam ako ni pangwan ng kwan. Iyang molecule. So we have this one steroid hormones. Okay, so they are messenger lipids. So messenger kanang kwan magtighatag og kwan information, communication. Okay, that one. Now we have steroid hormones. Okay, we have the sex hormones. We have estrogen, androgens, and progestin. So estrogen is for your female sex hormones. Then androgen is your male sex hormones. Then progestin is for pregnancy hormones. Now look at the difference, class. Look, it's still a steroid. Now, naalang siya ikuan dire. Your estradiol. Oh, pareha class. Tanawang testosterone o estradiol. What's the difference?
Ang bond ra nila
What?
ay ang kuan sad.
Ang estradiol kay
ang kuan ma'am
OH.
kay HO then O ang double bond O ang testosterone.
Oh, the ring also, the ring. Ay double bond here. Okay. No? Okay. Then it has, look, napay CH3 diri wala. Okay, but it has the same na dayon same na. Okay, so more difference, di ba? So your estradiol then testosterone. So more duol-duol ka siya. So this is estradiol is for female sex hormones. Then we have your testosterone for your responsible for male sex hormones. Okay, so we have that one. Then what about progesterone? It's for pregnancy. So what's the difference between testosterone and progesterone? Wala, doon na ka siya.
Na ay CH3 ang ma'am. Progesterone.
Okay, progesterone o testosterone. Oh, sorry, nakalahi niya. Kanira sa iyang carbon 17, no? Di ba C17 man eh?
Yes, ma'am.
Count ninyo na class na dito C17. So, OH diri. Double bond CH3. No? Okay. So, more na siya. So, inanaon na ninyo class. Kaya nyo yan. Okay, we have another mga synthetic steroid hormones. Okay, when we say synthetic gali class, binuhat na siya. Okay. Synthetic. Oh, tanawa class, abortion drug. Mifepristone. Kani mo din siya mifepristone. Steroid gihapon siya tapos same siya no? Mao man ni ang katong duol-duol sa katong progesterone, katong sa pregnancy, naapod siya OH, kanilang differ diri. Then punan lang din siya. Okay. Kung ano rin class, kung gusto ni mo antay, i-pattern na nimo siya sa katong iyahang pattern progesterone pattern gamay din kung imo siyang i-differentiate para mulahi iyahang function punan na nimo siya gamay. Okay, punan nimo ani then this one. Na siya synthetic abortion drug. Okay, this one, mao ni ang mga steroids nga inumon para mudagko inyong muscles. This one also is progestin. Synthetic progestin. Ano di siya kaning sa katong pregnancy, di ba nga pregnancy then ilisan na siya gamay, dili siya differ. And then here. Okay, so inana siya class. Take note of that. Then we have another hormones, steroids, aldosterone. Okay, cortisol. This one is your cortisol. Now look class, it's still a steroid. Steroid, gihapon siya no? a steroid, and then your cortisol class pag ma-stress na kay mo kay daghan kay mong exam, nagdungan-dungan, imong body maghatag og tag-as a high level of cortisol. Ano na din siya? Cortisol overload. Nagdaghan na kay daghan kay mag-exam na kuan, so mag-release din siya og stress hormone. We have this one, mo ma-feel mo stress. This one is cortisol. It's a steroid. Glucocorticoid din na siya. Okay, so counteract inflammation. Okay, control glucose metabolism and counteract inflammation. Okay. So let's go. Then we have this one, eicosanoids are arachidonic acid derivatives. Okay, class, tanawa oh, eicosanoids are arachidonic acid. So when we say arachidonic acid, it's 20:4. So how many double bonds?
4.
Okay, then taas kayo, din siya, taas kayo. 20 daw kabuk, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that's it. Have profound physiological effects at low cons. Hormone-like mo exert effects in the artist. Inflammatory response, induction of blood clotting. Okay, it helps kung na kay blood clot. Okay, so these things, so this one, irregulation of blood pressure, blood clotting pag masamad ka, control of reproductive functions such as induction of labor, regulation of sleep. Okay, ano po siya kung sleep yung gusto. Now we have this one. Okay. Now look, it's a fatty acid, so it has carboxylic acid. Now it says 20 daw kabuk, arachidonic. Okay, this is 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, it's 20. 20 carbons. Then how many double bonds?
4, ma'am.
That's why 20:4. This is your arachidonic, ha? Arachidonic acid. Now it says that eicosanoids are derivatives. When we say derivatives, gikan sila, derive sila sa arachidonic acid. Okay, we'll look at prostaglandin E2. So what's the difference? What's the difference? It has a ring. Now, it's a ring. Na siya ring, no? Then double bond O, then it has OH. Then sa carbon 15, instead double bond here, nahimo siyang OH sa carbon 15. That's your prostaglandin. Okay. Then we have this thromboxane. What's the difference of your thromboxane and prostaglandin? Same. Tanaw class. Same siya. Difference between prostaglandin and thromboxane. Okay, we have, ha?
Ang thromboxane, ma'am, kay O. Ang prostaglandin kay O.
Okay, oh, na siya, diri. Okay, oxygen na siya, no? So, it's an ether. Ether. Right? It's an ether. Okay, ether ring. Ether. This one. Saan ni? Leukotriene. Leukotriene. B4. Okay, what's the difference? Okay. Magduol siya sa arachidonic, no? Wala siya ring. No ring, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Prostaglandin has rings. Ring. And then this one, ring. No ring. It looks like a ring pero open siya class. O man siya ning abutang diri kuan. O maniya gibutangan diri. O maniya gibutangan dira. So it's an open chain gihapon. Okay, so you read the functions. na ang prostaglandin inhibits secretion of gastric juices. Okay, eicosanoids promote platelet aggregation. Okay, thromboxane, pag masamad ka, ano siya, mag-platelet siya, then it's cyclic ethering, sakto, ether. Then we have your leukotrienes. Oh, it's for allergy responses. So hydroxyl groups, 3 hydroxyl groups. 2 hydroxyl groups, and then natin siya mga double bonds. Okay. So you read na lang, anak class. Then we have your protective coating lipids. So they are biological waxes. So they are waxes kanang nasa imong dahon. That's why, di ba, ang beta na lipids are insoluble. That's why ang water dili siya makasulod sa imong dahon because it's insoluble and then it's wax pa jud. So mo na siya di kasulod ang water sa imong dahon. So your dahon has wax. Has wax. Like example of waxes, candle. Candle, kanang kandila nato, it's a wax, paraffin wax. It's a paraffin wax. Okay, so we have lipoproteins. So it's a lipid, and then we have the protein. Lipoprotein, lipid, then protein. So they are transport lipids. Okay, transport lipids. Kato atong gidiscuss ganina, it lets kung concept pasudlon. Katong it helps katong taas lagi ni. Then we have this one. Okay. Now this is the transport lipids. So we have the HDL and the LDL. Now high density lipoprotein. Okay ha? You take note of this also. These are very interesting topics, LDL and HDL. Yay! Okay. Yay! Now, look. Now siya summary. So, that's all. Okay, class? Okay pa ta?
Okay po.
O sige, pag na lang, mag-extend na lang ta. When man? Wednesday, Friday. Friday?
Yes, ma'am.
Na, sige, pag voting mo, dito na mo pagkuhan kay basin ang uban, di ganahag Friday. I-send na lang sa ako ang schedule ninyong ganahan. Pero, pag Tuesday, discussion on proteins.
Monday.
Ha? Proteins na ta.
Okay naman. Monday, ma'am. Okay lang Monday.
O sige, pag sabot mo dito, kay i-finalize ninyo na inyong sabot din, ignarak ko kanas
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, well, Tuesday proteins. Okay, so that's all. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hallelujah naman kayo. Okay. So, question. Wala na may mga question? Mo na class gigitag after mahuman nag-topic mag-exam ta because magpaabot pa tag midterm, paabot tag final, daghan kayo atong mga topics daghan kay tag topics dutan kita taas kitong coverage. So that's all. Have a great day. Goodbye. Thank you so much for attending.
Bye, ma'am. Thank you.
Bye, ma'am.